Hello, hello, hello. It's me, Penny the Angelic Sweetheart here, the real me, showing my face. And welcome back to another Halloween stream, but this time, instead of playing games, we are going to be reacting to scary videos. Because why the hell not? Always double check if this works. So the first video that we're going to be reacting to and watching is called The Haunted Apartment, Halloween Special. Scary animated horror story, and this is by American Horror Flicks. I mean, I've watched some videos that they did in the past, but I never went back because, you know, they haven't been uploading lately. Sure, they have their reasons, but anyway, let's just watch it.
So it's been just over a month since I went backpacking in Japan.
Oh, and all credit goes to them. Sorry.
I had always wanted to visit Tokyo, and I was excited about visiting the city and experiencing the culture for the first time. However, finding a suitable Airbnb for the duration turned out to be surprisingly challenging and very expensive, especially for someone like me, who was on a tight budget, and the fact that the cost of living is so high nowadays really didn't help. I did manage to find accommodation for the first few weeks though, and only needed to find a place to stay for the last couple of days.
So it's an Airbnb story.
Around 2 weeks into my vacation, I did search for some other apartments that were available on Airbnb, but they were far too expensive for such a short-term accommodation. Fortunately, one of the locals was kind enough to recommend an English-speaking real estate agent just around the corner that specialized in extremely cheap accommodation, and they even accepted renting out to foreigners. After a quick visit to their office, they seemed more than happy to let me stay at one of their small one-bedroom apartments for a very low price. I know I should have checked the condition of the apartment before reaching any agreement, but I was really just eager to make the most of the last few days of my vacation, and glad that I managed to find a place so quickly and without too much bureaucracy. And they already asked the landlady to check in on the apartment before I arrived, to make sure everything was in order. Admittedly, the apartment was quite shabby and old and looked like it hadn't been lived in or properly maintained for a while, but I wasn't planning on spending very long there, and I was exploring the city and eating out during most of the day anyway. Although it would have been nice to actually have had a proper bed to sleep in, as opposed to an old filthy stained mattress rolled out onto the floor.
Ew.
Between that and the strange odor of the place, it was no wonder why it was so cheap. But at least I had a roof over my head. The sudden rumble in my stomach was a fitting reminder that I hadn't eaten a proper meal that day, and I remember seeing a small ramen stall on the way over, which was just a few blocks away from the apartment. Since I still wasn't very familiar with the area, I chose a convenient spot with a view of the apartment, just to avoid getting lost or having to ask for directions later on. I was already dreading the thought of going back to the apartment, to be honest, so I wasn't really in a hurry to finish a nice hot ramen soup and enjoy the nightlife. However, a short time after that, it started to rain, so I wrapped things up and headed back to the apartment a lot sooner than I would have liked. Getting caught in the rain didn't bother me that much, but realizing that the power was out and that I wasn't able to recharge my phone was kind of annoying. On top of that, I noticed that the floor was soaking wet. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, it appeared that now I had a leaky ceiling to deal with. With only the light from the hallway shining through the frosted kitchen windows, I couldn't see all that much, but as I looked closer, I realized something very unsettling. The ceiling wasn't leaking at all, and the floor was in fact covered with wet footprints, as if someone had just walked in from the rain without wearing any shoes. Being such a tiny apartment, it didn't take me long to confirm that no one else was there, and none of my things had been rummaged through or stolen. Despite being in the dark and feeling creeped out, I realized I had forgotten an important detail. The landlady who was supposed to check in on things before I arrived. Perhaps there was a mix-up at the office, or she ended up being late for whatever reason. At least that seemed like the most plausible explanation. I was feeling really tired at that point, but as I was about ready to call it a night, I started hearing what sounded like a leaky faucet. And when I looked over to the kitchen, I was surprised to see the shadow of a woman moving past the window.
Get the fuck out of there.
She appeared to stop for no reason other than to peer through the window as if she was trying to grasp whether or not the apartment was empty. I didn't appreciate the intrusion, but eventually she continued walking down the hallway, and I quietly went over to the kitchen to tightly close the faucet to stop the dripping, so I could finally get some sleep. And that's when I noticed something through the frosted windows that really gave me the chills. I couldn't really tell if it was the same woman from before, but it felt really strange having someone just lurking around outside. It was still raining, and the door was definitely locked, so I thought if I could just concentrate on the sound of the rain, I could probably fall asleep and just get my mind off it. But as I contemplated on what to do next, I was startled by the sound of the front door slowly creaking open. I was too curious not to look, but I really wish I hadn't.
Oh, fuck.
Needless to say, I didn't sleep at all that night, even after grabbing my things and checking into the nearest hotel. After returning home, I did a bit of research and realized that the real estate agent that I spoke to was specialized in renting out and selling stigmatized properties, also known as jikobuken. Apparently, this term is associated with properties with tenants that have died under disturbing circumstances, which explains why they rent out so cheap, because the superstitious locals won't go anywhere near them. I've never considered myself very superstitious, but I'll be sure to avoid any stigmatized properties in the future.
Good. Fuck that, man. I would not have stayed there if I noticed one thing out of place. Or one thing scary. So anyway, let's look for another, NG. Alrighty, freaking seen that one. Mr. Nightmare. Let's watch this.
This has been heavily requested for a while now. A compilation of some of the stories I've read through the years that genuinely freaked me out the first time I read them.
Really?
I was out doing a delivery one late night. It was probably the longest drive I've ever taken for a pizza delivery from the pizza place I used to work at. It was a 20-minute drive, which isn't too crazy out where I live. Plus, they ordered 4 large pies, so I figured it was a party and I'd get a much bigger tip. Navigating the dirt roads at night was always annoying, though. I pulled up to the given address. It was some old, sketchy-looking building, literally in the middle of a forest clearing. There were no cars parked anywhere, or any lights on. I put my car in park, and I called my boss. I asked him to reread the address at least 3 times to make sure I typed in the right place. I could tell he was in a really bad mood, and he told me to at least knock on the door and check it out. He would normally get mad if we took back 1 pie, and I was afraid of what he would do if I brought back 4. I was insanely unnerved, but I got out anyway and forced myself to the front door of the building. There was no doorbell, so I just knocked really hard. I heard nothing. I didn't really expect to hear anything. I was extremely disappointed, not because nobody answered the door, but because I was realizing that it was all a waste of time and gas. I knocked 1 more time out of desperation, then began to hear some kind of rustling noises from inside the building. I knocked again and yelled that I was the pizza guy. There was silence now. I felt a bit more uncomfortable now than before, but before I could turn around, I noticed something at the window. There was someone looking through the window. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. All I noticed were their eyes. Their eyes were open wider than I knew possible, staring intently at me. I was disturbed enough by this to drop the pizzas and run back to my car. The shitty thing wouldn't start until turning the key for the 3rd time. I drove off the grass and back onto the dirt road, but I felt the car rocking about, shaking and bumping. Something wasn't right. I didn't make it far from the building before I started hearing a sharp scraping sound coming from outside. There was so much resistance that I couldn't even drive. The car came to a stop. I got out of the car to check what the hell was wrong. A chill ran up my spine as I began to feel like my heart was constantly skipping beats. My tires had been slashed and had completely fallen off the rim. Not just the front though, all 4 tires were slashed.
What?
I realized somebody did this when I was knocking on the door to that building. Instead of running, I got back in the car and locked the doors. I was so close to that building I could practically see it from where I was if it weren't for the trees blocking the view. I called 911 and told everything to the operator. She told me the cops would be over as soon as possible and that I need to stay hidden. I asked her if it's advisable to stay in the car or run, and she told me it would be best to stay in the car with the door locked. She asked me to stay on the line with her until the cops would arrive. My whole body was shaking. In all directions there was nothing but dark, seemingly endless forest. I knew it would take forever for the cops to get there. I was not comfortable sitting in that car so close to whoever did this. The next part is what utterly destroyed me. It still shakes me to this day, and I hope nobody ever has to experience this kind of fear. As I was scanning all the windows, making sure nobody was outside, I looked in the rearview mirror, and there was the same person I saw at that window, eyes opened wider than ever. I could see now that it was a woman, and I could ever so slightly see a smile begin to spread across her face. I opened my door and full-on sprinted into the woods, not caring how much noise I made. I ran until I was out of breath, which didn't take long, and I hid behind a giant log on the ground. I tried to cover my loud breathing with my hand as I waited and waited for what felt like hours until I finally heard sirens in the distance. I gathered up all the stamina I had left to run all the way back in the direction of the dirt road. Eventually the glowing red and blue lights came into view, and I had never felt better in my life. They were parked in front of my car, investigating with flashlights. I came out yelling at them like a lunatic to help me. I fell to the floor and started to gag, almost throwing up from running so much. They picked me up and began to ask me questions, to which I explained everything to the best of my ability. One of the 2 cars drove over to the building, and the 2 officers began to search the building. They came back with nothing except for a couple of spiky objects. These objects were exactly the same as the ones used to slash my tires. The cops guessed that it was some kind of sick, demented couple, being that I saw the woman, but unfortunately, as far as I know, they were never found, and that still kills me inside to this day. I obviously quit my job right after that and started working at a local grocery store. I know that I'll never forget seeing that woman at the back of my car.
Ooh. Number 2.
It's a little-known common courtesy out in the mountains during a snowstorm that if someone's seeking shelter in your cabin, you let them in. No, I wasn't the one offering that courtesy to someone else in the story. I was the one seeking refuge. It was supposed to be a long weekend of hunting, but what started as a cold, sunny day quickly formed tons of dark storm clouds, and I quickly found myself right in the middle of a blizzard. After a full, rather unsuccessful day of hunting hares, I was way too far and disoriented to make my way back to my cabin. I had to seek refuge somewhere else. I came across a log cabin nestled between a circle of trees. No lights on, but I still had to try the door. I hit the door with my fist a few times. No answer. I could hear footsteps on the other side, approaching the door. I expected it to open, but it didn't. I shouted that I'm lost and need shelter. The door cracked open, and I heard a voice say, "Come in, leave your boots by the door." I waited a bit, expecting him to open the door fully and formally greet me as anyone would, but that didn't happen. So I pushed the door open myself and entered the dark cabin. The room was lit by 2 candles, just enough for me to see the couch that the man then told me to sleep on. As for the man, all I saw was his silhouette on the far side of the room. The little light from the candles didn't extend that far. I dropped my bag and gun on the floor and laid down on the couch. I thanked the man for letting me crash here till the storm blows over. He didn't answer. His behavior wasn't the most bizarre thing. Folks are strange up in the mountains. If he wasn't up for conversation, I'd just get some early shut-eye. I closed my eyes, though the level of darkness with my eyes closed wasn't much of a difference. I was subconsciously waiting to hear the man's footsteps leave the room, but they never did. I opened my eyes, and his silhouette was still in the corner of the room, just standing there. I felt the need to say, "Yeah, I think I'm just going to get some sleep now, thanks." No response. I I turned to my other side so that I wouldn't be tempted to just keep opening my eyes to check on him. Some time passed, but without having heard his footsteps walk away, the curiosity was eating away at me. I turned over to look again, and this time, I swear to God, the silhouette of the man was closer by at least a few feet. I couldn't make out his face, but the slight glow from the candles would just barely trickle around the man's forehead, and what I saw was disgustingly pale skin. I quickly gathered my belongings and thanked him when I said I had to go. I didn't look at him anymore, because I don't think I wanted to know what he looked like. I put my boots on outside and hurried back into the blizzard. I came across another cabin down the hill, this one with the lights on. I knocked on the door, and some old man and his wife answered the door. They welcomed me in immediately and were very inviting. They gave me some hot tea and offered me a spot on the couch. I told them my story about the freaky cabin up the hill, and the two looked at each other, puzzled. The woman confirmed 2 times the cabin I was talking about. Then she said, "Honey, the owner of that cabin was murdered 2 years ago. That cabin has been vacant ever since."
Well then.
I'm 27 years old. I live alone in a rural town in Virginia, about 2 blocks away from my parents. My parents are both in their 60s, and my mom has become a very worrisome woman in her old age. Sometimes she walks over uninvited and lets herself in, since I had regrettably given her a key, which can get a bit annoying. Like if I would be out really late on weekends at a bar or with women, I would sometimes come home to my mom sitting in the living room waiting, worried sick. I know you may just think, "Oh my god, that's crazy, why not just put your foot down and tell her to stop?" Well, because you don't know my mom. It's very hard to describe her, but she's the kind of worrisome, innocent little lady that you just can't bring yourself to go against. And I hate to mention, she also has mild dementia. Anyway, this was Saturday night. I think it was around 2 in the morning. I was at a nearby club with a group of college friends, really the only place to hang out in this boring town, and I was getting ready to head home. I said goodbye to all my friends and walked the 3 blocks it took to get back to my house. I walked up my front stoop in my drunken haze and dug my hand in my pocket for my keys. When I grabbed the doorknob, I realized it was unlocked. My mom was here again. I quietly opened and shut the front door, locking it behind me. I put my keys on the kitchen counter and found a note written in my mom's handwriting saying, "You forgot this at our house, next to the box of half-eaten cake my parents didn't want." I didn't see my mom anywhere, so I assumed she must have gone upstairs to sleep in the guest bed until I got back, which is something she would commonly do as well. Then I heard footsteps upstairs, confirming it, and that's when I sighed once again. 27 years old, almost 3 in the morning, and she still has to wait up and treat me like a child. I ran upstairs to check the guest bed, empty, along with all the bathrooms. I was afraid Mom was having one of her episodes due to her condition, so I ran to the phone to call my dad. After 4 rings, my dad picked up in a groggy voice, asking what the hell is the matter. After I told him that I heard Mom wandering around upstairs in my house, there was a short pause, and then he said, "That's not possible, she's sleeping right next to me." My mouth fell open as I turned my head to face the dark upstairs, and just barely by the light provided by the kitchen, I could see a head peering around from the corner at the top of the stairs, looking down at me. I screamed into the phone as I ran out the front door and down the street to my parents' house, explaining to my father on the way. About halfway there, my dad told me, "All right, I'm gonna call the cops," and hung up. I made it to my parents' house, where my mom was already waiting at the door, worried sick. My mom explained that she did come over to clean my kitchen a little bit and to bring over the cake they didn't want. 2 police cars pulled up in front of my parents' house, where they escorted me and my dad down the street to my house. 1 officer stayed outside with us, while 2 others went inside to investigate. It felt like 15 minutes before they came back outside and said it was clear. They checked the crawl space, the attic, everything. There was really nothing for me to report, other than the door was left unlocked and I saw the outline of a head upstairs before I ran for it. Still, I didn't feel safe sleeping in there that night, so I went back to my parents' house. Me and my dad are certain that my mom simply forgot to lock the door when she left, as her memory has been getting worse over the past few months.
My dad has been stopping her from coming over alone from now on, which makes me both sad but also relieved. Some nights I still get paranoid that whoever was in my house that night never left and is still hiding in here somewhere. This is one of the few unexplainable events I've experienced in my life. I was home upstairs in my room, writing my paper for my history class. As far as I knew, I was home alone. But apparently I was mistaken, because my mom's voice called out from downstairs, yelling my name. I called back, "What?" She didn't answer. So, slightly annoyed because I didn't want to be interrupted from my train of thought on my paper, I reluctantly got up to go downstairs and see what she wanted. When I got downstairs, I looked around for my mom, but she wasn't anywhere in sight. So I yelled out, "Mom?" And she yelled back my name in response. Her voice came from down in the basement. So I went to the basement door, but strangely the lights were off. I called down the stairs, "Mom?" again, and she called back. I yelled out, "What are you doing down there with the lights off?" She didn't respond. I flicked on the light and went down the stairs.
Bitch, why the fuck are you doing that? If something is amiss here, don't freaking investigate it. Just don't, okay? This is what happens in horror movies. That's when people fucking die.
I heard my mom call my name again as I was near to the bottom of the steps. It was getting weird. Each time she called my name, it sounded exactly the same. Like there was zero difference in inflection every single time she said my name. I yelled out, "Mom," again. She once again yelled back my name. She was nowhere to be seen in the basement. But then I noticed the little crawl space closet door was open. I call it that because it's a weird closet that you have to kind of crawl into, but it takes up a large chunk of the basement. That was the only place left in the basement that my mom could be. So I said, "Mom," one final time. No answer this time. I went closer to the closet door and got on my knees just to try and look in. It was pitch black inside, and I was starting to get freaked out. I said, "Mom, are you messing with me?" There was no response at all, just the quiet buzzing sound from the basement light. I got back up, and for some reason decided to sprint back upstairs, slamming and locking the basement door behind me. I didn't know what I had just witnessed and heard, but I went to grab the house phone and call my mom's cell number. It rang a few times until my mom picked up, and I learned that she was out grocery shopping. I told her, but she didn't believe my story, of course. She thought I was messing with her. It took half an hour of begging her to believe me that she finally went along with it, and when she and my dad were both home, we all went down to the basement together. The closet door was still open. My dad went inside, but there was no one in there. This still remains to be the most haunting, unexplainable experience of my life.
Yeah. Oh, there's another story? I thought that was going to be the end.
There was this one time I was out late drinking with friends. It was some point in the summer of 2016. We were kind of just walking around town and then around the neighborhood when one of my friends spotted someone hiding in a bush. He pointed and said, "Look," and we all walked a little closer to get a better look. We could see what he was talking about, but just barely. It was bizarre, like someone hiding in this bush in front of this house. When we got too close, apparently, this weird, off-putting sound started coming from the bush. So we all screamed and laughed and ran away. We screamed because it was scary, but laughed because at the same time it was bizarrely funny. And there were a lot of us, so... Anyway, we walked back to our houses respectively, assuming whoever was in that bush was just messing with people. I fell asleep pretty easily that night since I was drunk, but next thing I remember was waking up to the near pitch blackness of my room. I couldn't look at the clock to see what time it was because I literally couldn't move. I was in a sleep paralysis state. I looked around the room with my eyes only and started to hear a familiar noise, a noise we heard coming from that bush. Then I looked straight in front of me, at the foot of my bed, and what I saw was pure nightmare fuel. It was what appeared to be this floating, grotesque, horrific head of a demonic ghost-like thing. As it got closer to me, I realized it wasn't floating. There was a body, but its body blended in with the blackness of the room. Its mouth hung open, and it just kept making the familiar noise from the bush. It got mere inches from my face before it suddenly just faded away. And I was able to let out a scream and move my body. I sat in my bed, panting and heart racing. I flicked on the lamp and checked around my bed, but that demonic thing was gone. What I just experienced seemed so real, like I was awake for it. It wasn't a dream. I told my parents about it the next day, and they agreed with me that it was sleep paralysis, though they had never heard of anyone seeing freaky shit like that before.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine that. That's so creepy. If I saw that, I would freak out. I would not sleep for, I don't even know how long. Nope, I would not sleep. Sorry, y'all can't see this. Really? My camera's out again? Don't remember it being so sensitive. Okay, let's try this again. Source. Hello, I'm back. This darn camera. Let me fix it. Okay, I'm back now. Okay, now let's continue on what we were doing. There we go, finally got it. Okay, that was nice, Mr. Nightmare Stories. Okay, I was also looking for sound effects. Don't like this. Okay. I'll get rid of those later, but in the meantime, let's,
Videos are actually subscribed. If you want to support this channel and make this channel reach the 1 million mark, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can change your mind later. Enjoy.
Okay. Next video we're going to be watching is 3 Forest Finding Horror Stories. I watched the first one while trying to stream this stream last night, but I got too tired and decided I'm just going to call it a night. So I didn't finish it. So, if you guys want to see the first story, then I'll leave a link to this video in the description. So let's just go ahead and just watch story number 2. What the fuck?
During
Is
the
that
night,
real?
and with the help of a flashlight, a person is approaching an abandoned house in this footage. Once they are close to one of the windows of the place, they see some strange symbols and candles inside. In the next
Satanism.
room, they find something much more disturbing. A sheet covering what appears to be a body surrounded by candles. The story you are about to see is a dramatized, animated version of this scary found footage.
I understand there are people who don't like horror movies, of course, but I can't live without them. Or, at least, that's how it was before. I was such a fan that I used to watch every horror movie I could find. At first, I did it alone, but then I met Daniel and Anthony, who liked them as much, if not more, than me. But over time, we began to stop feeling that adrenaline that we used to enjoy so much. That's when Daniel made us a proposal.
Guys, wouldn't you like us to experience
Ooh.
those things ourselves?
What do you mean?
You know, going out, exploring, experiencing paranormal situations. I mean, doesn't that sound great? It really sounds just like what we need.
Yeah, let's do it. That's how we started going to abandoned buildings, basements, attics, cemeteries, and all those places where paranormal events were common. We even used to carry several cameras so we could record in the hope of capturing something interesting. The three of us had a great time together in those creepy places, but now everything is different. After what happened last month, I don't think I'll ever do it again. It was a
Good.
Saturday morning. Daniel, Anthony, and I planned that exploration weeks earlier, and it was finally the day, which had us quite excited. They arrived at my house, and we stayed there together until nightfall, at which point we got into Daniel's car and headed to the place we were going to visit.
We're almost there.
Sometime after that, my friend started to slow down and finally parked the car on the side of the highway, next to the woods. Soon we all got out, grabbed our backpacks and flashlights,
Why is there
and
basketball
headed
there?
into the forest. At that time, the place was really dark and very cold, but we were as prepared as ever. Still, I started to feel doubtful once we had walked for half an hour and no buildings seemed to be close by.
Daniel, was the place supposed to be so far away? You never told us it would take so long to get there.
Chill out, Jen.
His answer only made me hesitate more.
Are you sure there's a place around here?
Oh my gosh, Jen. Yes, of course I am.
If you say so, but
Guys?
what's wrong, Tony?
I turned to see my friend, who was desperately looking for something in his backpack.
You didn't bring a camera, did you? I'm pretty sure we told you to bring it. I'm sure I did. Maybe I just left it in the car. I'll go find it, okay? Sure. I'll send you the location once we're there. Yeah.
Daniel and I continued walking for a while, until, in the distance, we began to see a structure. It appeared to be a small white house.
It has to be that one. I'll tell Tony.
As we got closer, I noticed more details of the place. Of course, it was dirty and had plants growing on its walls. The window we could see from this side was broken. It looked like most abandoned houses.
Jen?
I didn't turn to look at him as I walked, as I was too focused on the house.
Yeah?
Wait, stop. Tony's not receiving my messages.
What?
Look!
My friend showed me his cell phone, where what he told me was clearly shown, but I didn't think it was a big deal, so I turned back to the house.
Maybe his cell phone has no signal, that's all.
That doesn't make any sense. My cell phone has signal, Jen.
Before I could answer Daniel again, through the window of the house, I saw a shadow move.
I would have ran away. I would have freaking ran away.
Did you see that? It has to be something. Let's go.
Wait, Jen!
Pointing my flashlight at the spot, I started running through the tall grass toward the place. As soon as I saw what was there on the floor, covered by a blanket and surrounded by lighted candles, I backed away.
What the?
My heart started beating fast. In just a few seconds, the situation had completely changed. Those weren't paranormal events. There was something really bad going on here. I was standing a few inches from the house when suddenly something touched my right shoulder, so I couldn't help but let out a scream.
What the heck? Did I scare you, Jen?
Realizing it was Daniel didn't reassure me. In fact, I felt in much more danger since I had made noise. Soon I began to hyperventilate, so I covered my mouth.
Jen? What's wrong?
There's something there.
My friend approached the place. I knew he had seen it the moment he backed away.
Oh my god.
Let's go, Daniel.
Wait, what if someone needs help? We have to report it.
I saw him take out his cell phone from one of his pants pockets, but he put it back in seconds later.
My cell phone has no signal.
My friend started to get closer to the house.
Wait, what are you doing?
Stay there. I'll just see what it is, and then we'll go.
Unable to stop him, I watched as Daniel entered the room. He brought one of his hands to the blanket, but before he could pull it away, a person appeared.
It was a smiling woman. She didn't look young, but she didn't look old either. Her hair was very long, and she was wearing white clothes.
Hi. Do you like what I did? It looks good, doesn't it? I'm sure it will work.
What do you mean? What is this?
I'm sure you guys know that, don't you? After all, you're here.
What the heck are you talking about? Are you out of your mind?
There must be a reason. You wanted to be here. You guys have to know what I'm trying to do. I'll summon someone. I'll bring them back to life.
What do you have here?
My friend once again brought one of his hands close to the blanket.
Don't touch it. You're gonna ruin everything. Do not touch it.
The woman grabbed one of Daniel's arms to try to prevent him from removing the blanket.
Daniel!
Unconsciously, I approached them, although I was still outside the building.
Get away!
In a quick movement, he pushed the woman, who fell to the ground. Being close to Daniel, I could see that she had caused some marks on his arm. Finally, he pulled back the blanket. That's when we saw him. It was Anthony who was under it. His eyes were closed, his skin pale, and he seemed not to be breathing. I still can't remember clearly what happened next. Daniel told me that he and I got far enough away to have a cell phone signal and call the police, but when he returned to the house, the woman was nowhere to be found. A few days later, we went to our friend's funeral, but I still can't believe he's dead. I can't accept that that night we led him straight to his death at the hands of the crazy woman they're still looking for.
This also makes me mad because, you know, there's so many people just run away and aren't found. They get away with this shit. That makes me so angry. Anyway, let's go. What the fuck is that thing? It's moving.
Two people were camping in the woods at night when they heard strange sounds coming from a bush nearby. As they flashed their light in the direction where the sounds were coming from, they see a weird-looking creature coming their way. The story you are about to see is loosely based on this scary, terrifying footage found in the forest. I was sitting on the hospital bed with a heavy bandage wrapped around my head. A doctor came in and asked,
Hi, I'm Dr. Macy Graff. How are you feeling now, Matthew?
A little better. Where's Shelly?
She's still in shock from last night. We had to put her on sedatives so that she could rest. Don't worry, she will be all fine.
Two cops entered my room, and Dr. Graff introduced me to them.
Matthew, these are officers Brad and Carlos. They'll be asking you some questions about last night. If under any circumstances you feel sick or need medical attention, just reach out to that bed switch attached to the stand. A nurse will come immediately, okay?
Yeah, sure. When can I see my sister?
The moment she wakes up, I'll personally come take you to her room, okay?
Thanks, Dr. Graff.
Dr. Graff left me with the two policemen, and they sat on the couch next to my bed. The tallest officer between them looked at me with a caring smile and asked,
Does your head still hurt?
A little.
Matthew, we're here to talk about what happened last night. Can you walk us through it?
Drops of sweat appeared on my forehead as I recalled the most terrifying memory of my life. Yesterday, my sister and I went camping in the woods behind our farmhouse. We came to stay here for a week with our parents. And being two grown-up teenagers, me 17 and Shelly 15, it wasn't our first time going camping in these woods. Shelly and I are both nature lovers, and we love spending our siblings' quality time exploring the wilderness. We separate our duties and create as many exciting memories as we can on such trips. So around 4 in the afternoon, Shelly and I left for our hike, carrying our rucksacks and tents to camp after nightfall. We clicked pictures of some rare birds in the forest, enjoyed our lunch near a beautiful lake, and once it got dark, we camped under a big bushy tree close to that lake. The moon was full, and its magical silver splendor lighted up the night sky. We started building a fire. That's when we heard the rustling of leaves coming from behind. I flashed my light, spotting a bushy tree, and Shelly screamed in fear.
Ah, who is that?
We saw a man standing in the dark wearing nothing but dirty pajamas. He was shaking his head in a very creepy way, like he was trying to get rid of flies. A bad odor came from his body like he hasn't taken a bath in years. Feeling intimidated by this man, I said in a fumbling voice,
Hey, are you all right?
He mumbled without answering my question. Shelly grabbed my arm in fear and whispered,
Why is he acting like that?
Hey, dude, who are you?
Now the man slowly lifted his head and looked at me. I have never seen such a cringe-worthy, expressionless face in my life. His eyes were like the eyes of a dead fish, huge, weirdly sharp. His nose seemed odd too. In a few words, he didn't look normal or sane at all. The man smiled at us real big and spoke for the first time.
Are you guys lost? What? No, we're camping. Hey, is everything all right, man?
He ran his filthy arm all over his chest, looked at the sky, and then said,
I don't feel cold anymore.
Shelly said in a fearful voice.
What are you doing here? And where are the rest of your clothes?
The man looked at her and licked his lips in a very freaky way. He then nodded his head from left to right, like he was saying no, and spoke again in his raspy, snake-like voice.
Why would I need clothes when I am wearing a skin?
What the hell does that mean?
I calmed Shelly down, who was afraid of this man.
Look, we don't want any trouble, so if you...
But the man didn't let me finish. A growling sound came from his stomach, and he said,
Would you mind if I join you? I am hungry.
Shelly prompted in my ears.
There's no way he's joining us. Matthew, tell this man to leave right now.
Relax, just let me talk to him.
I looked at the man, who was still standing like before, watching us without blinking. I don't know what happened, but I just couldn't say no to him. I replied,
Sure, you can join us. We have plenty of food.
What are you doing?
Shelly yelled in a low voice. I told her it would be fine and that she has nothing to worry about. We started to walk back to the camping site, and the man followed. Upon reaching, Shelly built a fire and sat in one corner, grabbing the hunting knife close to her chest. But the man didn't seem intimidated by that. He didn't even look at the knife properly. He was just staring at the night sky and giggling on his own. I put the chicken on the rod to roast it over the fire. The entire time I cooked the chicken, the man made very weird remarks. He asked,
What is that you are burning?
That's a chicken. Haven't you seen one before?
Why are you burning it on fire?
Shelly and I exchanged a surprised look and said,
We're roasting it so we can eat it. Oh, I see.
What's so funny about that?
I bet it would taste much better uncooked.
Now I felt goosebumps on my neck. Shelly didn't speak for seconds, and I realized it was a mistake to invite this guy for dinner. Once the chicken was done, I separated into pieces and gave the man some on a disposable plate. Taking the plate from his hand, he didn't eat the chicken right away. He smelled it like a dog, and then put a little amount into his mouth. As soon as he took the first bite, something awful started to happen to him. He began to get sick, and bile rushed into his system, desperate to come out. The man started to cough and choke, like any minute his insides will come out of his mouth. He grabbed his throat and fell to the ground, trying to breathe desperately. In that coughing voice, he said,
It's coming out! It's coming out!
Matthew, what's happening to him?
I got up in a panic and yelled,
Oh God, what's happening to you?
but the man couldn't speak anymore. He continued coughing, and then big, grimy bile came out of his mouth. Green slime poured like rain from his huge mouth. And then, the ultimate horror took place. An entire rotten mouse came out of his mouth like he devoured the poor animal whole. With a splashing sound, the mouse fell to the ground, and Shelly screamed in horror.
Ah!
She fainted right there, and I was too shocked to speak a single word. After vomiting his bottom out, the man stood up from the ground, shaking uncontrollably. His hands and chest were still dripping with his vomit. Giving a big, toothy grin, he said to me,
Thanks for your hospitality.
and then he ran into the forest at full speed, disappearing into the night. The cops exchanged a suspicious look, and then Officer Carlos asked,
Were you guys doing any drugs?
I heaved a sigh in disappointment because I expected this reaction from them. The cops asked me many more questions, thinking it was all a mistake, a mere hallucination of two teenagers after drinking in the woods. But I can still remember his face, his eyes, even the stinking odor that came from his body. I am not sure what to believe after this encounter.
I'd be truly shocked too. But anyway, I'll be right back, you guys.
I hate Karens, but they say fate will give us whatever we hate. I had to deal with one every day in my shift at Pizza Hut. Whenever the woman came in, I tried to avoid her by hiding in the kitchen. But every time she saw me and called me out. I never knew why she made me her target. She came into my shift again today.
Hey, Gray. You come here.
She called me. At first, I kept cleaning the table and pretended that I didn't hear anything. But she didn't give up.
Didn't you hear me calling?
She growled. Yes, ma'am. What's the matter? I turned around.
Would you go to the kitchen and ask if my food is ready?
It was annoying that she always made some stupid excuse to get me to do whatever she said. Okay, madam, please be patient, I said and turned away. Suddenly, while I was leaving the table, she patted my butt.
Hurry them up. I'm so hungry.
She said and winked at me. That made me feel very uncomfortable. Because I was so frightened by her actions, I hid in the kitchen until she left. After that incident, I decided to sign up for the night shift to avoid her. But then my co-worker Andy told me that the first day I changed my shift, she came in as usual. Then she looked around and approached the order counter.
One hot stuff as usual.
While Andy had finished delivering her pizza, she kept asking,
Where is Gray? I didn't see him here.
Andy replied that I changed my shift, and she immediately asked for the time. But Andy said it was domestic information which couldn't be revealed. Immediately, she went crazy, slammed her hands on the table, and shouted,
Tell me, when can I meet him? If not, I will destroy this shop.
Andy stepped back and said, Please calm down, I really can't speak about it. She didn't pay attention to what Andy said. She grabbed him by the collar and huffed.
Speak! If you don't, I'll kill you.
Andy shook his head and tried to push her hand away from his collar. Then she took the pizza on the counter and threw it straight in Andy's face.
I don't need your pizza. Bring Gray back to me.
Because she was so aggressive, Andy called the police and dragged her out. Then, Pizza Hut posted a sign prohibiting her from entering the store. Another day, I went to work. But just as I was about to open the door and enter, suddenly someone grabbed my hand.
Gray! Here you are. I finally got to see you.
It was that goddamned woman. She looked disheveled and dirty. She seemed to have been there since morning. Oh my God! Get off me! I shoved her hand away in fear and quickly entered the store. During my shift, she stood outside the store and stared at me as if she wanted to eat me alive. Because I worked the night shift, it was very empty. The only patron was her, and I always had to keep an eye on her to make sure she didn't sneak into the store. The phone rang, and I picked it up. It was Andy. He couldn't come in for his shift, so I had to look after the store alone today. As soon as I hung up the phone, I turned to look at her, and she was gone. Oh no, where did she go? I thought nervously. I looked around the store but didn't see anyone. In an instant, someone suddenly jumped up and hugged me from behind.
Oh, Gray, there you are.
I turned around startled. It was her. She hugged me tightly, but I struggled to push her hand away. I ran into the kitchen, but tripped and fell. She rushed over to me, her lips pursed. I jumped up in fear, instinctively defending myself. With all of my strength, I used my hands to press her head onto the grill. She struggled and shouted,
Let me go! I'm burned! I'm burned! I'm burned!
The smell of barbecue hit my nose, and I realized I had gone a little too far with her, so I let go. She was burned now, and the stove marks on her face were hideous. Her eyes were sealed from the burns. She waved her arms wildly and frantically ran.
Oh no! My face! You ruined my face!
I crouched in fear and looked at her from a corner, and she came up to me and grabbed me. I pushed her away. Suddenly, she stepped on a knife that fell on the floor. She slipped, fell backwards, and was motionless. I shivered. I dialed 911 without thinking. The police showed up 10 minutes later, and fortunately, she was not dead, and I was not charged. According to police, she had a history of mental illness. She had been away from home for several days, and her family was trying to find her. But the image of that woman with a burnt face still haunts me to this day. Ruby had kind of a quick temper. Whenever the waiter appeared a bit late, or the clerk forgot to put her eggs on one side of the bag, she would mess it up and threaten to sue them.
I want to speak to your manager,
was her catchphrase in most situations. That day, she seemed indisposed, perhaps because of the gloomy weather. McDonald's was bustling with people, including her. She stood in line with a scowl on her face. It took a long time for Ruby to place her order, and finally, she got it. The server today was Ivy. Ivy smiled politely and paused to take Ruby's order.
1 double cheeseburger.
Ruby focused on the menu on the table, not giving Ivy a glance. After ordering, Ruby stayed at the counter to wait for her food. Less than a minute had passed, and Ruby lost all patience. She kept looking at her watch, then back at the door. After a while, Ivy brought out the meal. Ruby flashed a forced smile and narrowed her eyes as she stared at her dish.
What the hell is this?
Ruby shouted angrily. She slammed the glass of water on the table and broke it. Small pieces of glass were strewn over the table. All the guests were startled. Ivy worriedly ran over.
What's wrong, madam? What's wrong? Look at this!
Ruby raised the bunch of human hair close to Ivy's face, growling.
There's hair in my burger!
Other customers started whispering.
Sorry, madam, but there seems to be a mistake here.
Ivy hastily explained.
What do you mean by mistake?
Ruby opened her eyes widely. Ivy explained that the food here was prepared and served in hygienic conditions. Plus, the staff working in the kitchen had short hair, so there was no chance a hair could get in.
You mean I made it up by myself? No, madam, I didn't. You rat! How dare you? Where's the manager? Let me talk to the manager!
Ruby immediately grabbed. But that wasn't enough. She pressed Ivy's head against the table full of sharp, broken glass. Ivy trembled to resist when her face was only inches away from it. She didn't expect that the first day of work would be so...
I want to speak to your manager!
Ruby continued to yell. At this moment, Danny, the store manager, appeared.
My apology for our new employee.
she might be a bit short of experience. How can I help you?
Are you the manager?
Ruby looked scornfully at the thin man in front of her.
She slandered me. You gotta do something. Do something!
She finally loosened her hands on Ivy. Ivy was too scared to move, so she fell to the ground. Danny, with a polite smile, offered Ruby compensation. Not only another burger meal, but a takeaway combo of double cheeseburgers. But Ruby wasn't satisfied. She wanted Ivy to apologize to her in front of everyone. And Ivy did, in a patient way. Ruby sat down arrogantly.
It looks like you're lucky today.
Ivy, you can go inside and prepare the meal, Danny said. After a while, Ivy brought out the food to Ruby. Ruby sneered and rudely snatched it. She sniffed the smell of food coming out of the bag and then quickly left the restaurant, just the way she did after cheating in other restaurants. Ivy stood there and watched the woman driving away, still shaking.
Hey, take it easy. We meet a lot of people like that.
A co-worker passed by and patted her on the shoulder. The mean Ruby was driving down the street, hitting the horn repeatedly. As her car pulled onto the freeway, she started eating the burger. She chewed hard as if she had been starving for a long time, not even bothering about the taste. One bite, then two, and three. She soon finished half of the burger. The pain came slowly. As soon as she realized something was wrong, she spat out the food. It turned out a lot of blood. Her eyes widened in shock as blood ran down her neck and clothes. At this moment, Ruby realized that there was a small piece of glass in her mouth. A stomach ache also started to hit her hard. She felt her throat burning and her stomach twisting with pain. Ruby quickly lost control. The car lurched and crashed into the roadside bar. It exploded shortly after. The incident was reported very soon.
That's Karen's car.
The co-worker in McDonald's panicked when she recognized the car and its owner, but then thought that it was fair.
She deserves it.
Ivy gave a forced smile, her eyes slowly moving to the trash can, which was full of glass pieces just a couple of hours ago. Karens are annoying. We all know that. But sometimes they can even bring danger to a whole plane. Well, I witnessed that once, and I don't want that nightmare to happen a second time. It was a summer day in June. After a year of hard work, I decided to treat myself to a trip to Hawaii. Traveling alone was something so fun, especially when you're an introvert. I checked in just in time to board the plane. When finding my seat, I was annoyed to see someone sitting there already. Some minutes later, the flight attendant approached and asked me to settle down, so I had to walk over to my seat.
Excuse me? I think this is my seat. But I don't like to sit near the window, so I prefer this one. But the seat is on the ticket. I don't think we can change, but I don't want to change it. Any problems?
Because of her loud voice, everyone turned back and looked at me. I was so embarrassed that I forced myself to sit near the window. After the plane took off, That woman took off the mask while the flight attendant asked everyone to wear masks during the flight.
Hey, why did you take off the mask?
She glared at me with red eyes.
What's the matter? Why are you so nosy? Never mind.
But then I decided to report this.
Can I go to the bathroom for a bit?
The woman reluctantly said.
What a disturbing thing.
I moved out and went across the restroom to the cabin. I wanted to inform the flight attendant about the woman's behavior. That made me very uncomfortable. After listening to my report, the flight attendant went to talk to her. But you think that was all? Not so easy. The Karen yelled.
I just took off my mask for a snack. Is there any need to be so strict?
Then glared at me. The flight attendant turned to me.
Is that true?
I hesitated for a moment, then shook my head slightly. The flight attendant looked at the woman.
Would you mind putting the mask back on now? But is it a big deal? I only took off my mask for 1 minute. Why are you so unreasonable? But it's the rules, so I ask you to strictly follow it. Do you want me to die? With the mask on, how can I breathe properly? I'll sue you! Madam, I ask you to sit down and stay calm, and then put on your mask.
The woman suddenly grabbed the flight attendant by the collar.
I don't like masks! Can you understand it?
I stood up and tried to stop her, but to no avail. The woman then pushed the flight attendant aside.
What would you do to me?
The other people seemed so panicked. The woman got her face close to the attendant. She seemed so mad. Then she suddenly turned around and pointed at me.
You're the one who did this!
She rushed over to me and picked me up by the neck. I was so scared, I could hardly breathe. My whole body was drained of strength.
It's you!
The woman then pushed me down on the seat and took my mask off. Fortunately, at that moment, the flight attendant appeared in time and tied her up with duct tape. With the help of another flight attendant, they tied the woman to the chair and dragged me out. My whole body was shaking, my heart was still beating fast, and I felt short of breath even though the flight attendant kept reassuring me. After the plane landed, the police quickly showed up. The woman kept screaming at them and ended up being handcuffed off the plane. Well, it was the scariest flight of my life, and now every time I see someone like that woman, I get chills. I wish you a happy traveling season and to never get into the same situation as I did.
Motels are creepy places by nature. I always get a bad vibe when staying in an unfamiliar place, usually in the middle of nowhere and very poorly kept. Obviously, I know there are nice and very well located motels, but to tell you the truth, they're in the minority. Anyway, one of the reasons I loathe motels so much is because I spent the worst night of my life in one of them. That night I had met Clark, my Tinder date, with whom I had spent the night at a bar, and we had had a few too many drinks. Clark took me to a sleazy motel to end the night. The room was clean, but looked quite rustic. It had an old television attached to the wall, pointing to a double bed. To the side, there was a bathroom, and next to the bed, a piece of furniture with a bedside table. Interesting choice of place to spend the night, Clark. If you ran out of money, you would have agreed to let me pay for half of the dinner.
Ouch. You should appreciate places like this. You must admit they have their charm.
I have no doubt about that. I'm sure many serial killers see the charm. Is that why you brought me here? Are you going to murder me?
I'm sorry, but that was always the plan.
He said, with a slow and seductive tone as we got face to face.
But I can assure you, it will be worth it.
I guess I can put that in my epitaph. As soon as I said that, we started kissing and threw ourselves onto the bed without stopping at any point. After a few minutes, both of us were on the bed, under the sheets. We were not fully undressed yet, but we were in our underwear, kissing. Suddenly, I heard a vibration, and I stopped kissing Clark. I think they're calling you. My phone is out of battery.
Ignore them. I'm sure they're just from work.
Oh, okay. As soon as we got close to kissing again, we heard knocks on the door. There was someone behind our door. Wow, really?
For fuck's sake.
Maybe it's someone lost or the owner of the motel. Let's ignore him. As if in response to this, the person knocked harder.
Okay, I had it. I'm gonna see what the hell they want.
Clark grabbed his pants and opened the door violently. Behind it, there was a long-haired man. He was wearing a black overcoat with a hood that he pulled down to speak.
Hello, I'm sorry to bother you. Is this a bad time?
The man spoke in a subtle, relaxed, almost innocent voice. At all times, he was smiling, but slightly, nothing too exaggerated.
Yes, what do you want? I was walking by the rooms and I heard you. I thought I could come and say hello. What? Who the fuck are you? God.
He said very slowly and creeped me out. Clark was also scared and took a few steps back, unable to react to what was happening. Then his cell phone rang again, which took him by surprise and caused him to turn around for a second. During that small moment, the man pulled out a bag and started choking him with all his might. I got up in my underwear and broke a glass over the man's head. Surprised, he realized Clark had taken the bag from his head. As soon as he did that, he saw the man coming at him with a knife and managed to dodge it, but got a big cut on his arm. Seeing his wound, Clark ran out of the room in desperation. The man just watched him go. He didn't look angry. He was disappointed. He then turned his head around and saw me, terrified.
Oh, am I blocking your exit? I'm sorry. You can go.
He then stepped aside, still holding the knife tightly in his hand.
Drop the knife and get out of here. Close the door on your way out.
I'm sorry. I can't do that.
The man closed the door and stared at me with a somewhat sad face. That face only lasted a few seconds, since he instantly showed me his innocent smile again.
You said I could leave. Get away from me.
The man started to move, and I walked back even faster. I saw Clark's cell phone on the bedside table, and I backed away to grab it. Then I ran desperately to the bathroom. As I entered, I locked the door from the inside. The creepy man didn't run at any point. He just walked calmly toward me. In a panic, I tried to make a call, but the cell phone had a password.
Fuck.
On the other side of the bathroom, the man was banging on the door.
Excuse me, could I come in?
Why are you doing this to me? Leave me alone.
Hey, you look angry. Is everything okay?
Are you making fun of me? What the hell is your problem?
This is for trying to kill you, isn't it? I'm sorry. It's not my fault. He made me do it.
What the hell are you talking about? Who's making you kill me?
God. He is here with me. I understand you can't see him, but rest assured, in a very short time, you too will see heaven.
Listen to me. I am a religious woman. I go to church every Sunday. This is not right. Killing is wrong. Do you understand?
Hey, stop crying. This is a good thing. I'm doing it for you. I know, but he will forgive me. This is a part of something much bigger. It is the divine will. You should not resist. Do it for him. I feel that you understand me. We are forming a good bond. You shouldn't be so afraid.
When you told me to go, were you really going to let me leave? Tell me the fucking truth.
No, I was going to kill you. I'm sorry I lied to you. Would you let me in, please?
You're still going to kill me?
Yes. Can you unlock the door, please?
Still crying, I just ignored him, and he kept patiently knocking on the door. A few seconds later, the phone rang again, and I answered quickly.
Please, I need help. I'm trapped in a motel and a man wants to kill me. Please, call 911.
What? Who are you? Where is Clark?
Clark and I were on a date. We were at a motel and suddenly a man came in. He managed to escape, but I'm locked in the bathroom. The man is outside. Please send someone quickly.
What? You bitch! Clark is my husband.
Fuck. I'm sorry, okay? I swear, I didn't know. I met him on the internet. I swear he told me he was single. Please, I don't want to die. Send someone. Clark's phone is blocked. Please, you have to believe me. I would never date a married man. Hello? Hello?
Fuck, I know you're telling the truth. It's not the first time the bastard has done this. Listen, I don't know his password, but I'll call the police, okay?
Thank you. Thank you. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. Thank you.
The hotel where you are, does it have red doors and green windows?
Yeah, how did you know that?
This fucking son of a bitch. I know where you are. Stay there. I'll send help as soon as possible.
Thank you.
And honey, if in the future this happens to you again, you don't need to unlock a cell phone to call 911. After saying this, the woman ended the call. To my surprise, the man had stopped knocking on the door as soon as the call began.
They're already contacting the police. They're coming right now. Please go away.
On the other side of the door, I heard nothing.
Are you still there?
I didn't hear anything behind the door, but I wasn't going to take my chances and run away, so I just sat and waited for the police. We spent several minutes in silence. I could wait for hours, as long as someone was coming to rescue me. I thought about calling the police on my own. What if the girl hadn't done it? I turned the phone back on, but I heard voices coming from nearby.
This is the only room I rented. They have to be here. Yes, there's more blood in here. Thank you, sir. Now go back and lock yourself in. You may be in danger here.
From the way they were talking, I quickly assumed it was the police and the motel owner, so I yelled as loud as I could.
I'm here! I'm here! Help!
I heard many footsteps running in my direction, and in desperation, I took a chance and opened the door. As I did so, I feared that the voices were friends of the killer or other people who would want to harm me, but all of those doubts vanished when I saw the two uniformed men waiting for me. In tears, I hugged one of them, but when I raised my head, I saw him again. The man was standing at the end of the room in a blind spot for the policeman who had rushed in and didn't see him. He was unclothed, only in his boxers. His body was covered in the blood that fell from Clark's wound, and he was just standing there with a smile on his face and the knife in his hand. I walked away from the officers.
The man who tried to kill me! Behind you!
Both cops turned around in surprise, and in front of them, the man quickly walked toward the officers with the knife raised.
Sir, stop right now, or we will shoot.
When the man came even closer, both policemen shot him, and he fell to the floor. After being shot 3 times in the chest, the man, who was still smiling, stood up again, as if he felt nothing, and lunged at one of the policemen. Before he could stab him, his partner acted quickly and shot him again. But now, in the head, the man instantly died. A few minutes later, the ambulance and 2 other police cars had arrived. I was outside getting some air with a blanket over my body, waiting for the cops to take me away from the motel. As I watched the ambulance carry away the man's covered body, one of the policemen approached.
Apparently, we found your date. He's safe. He ran down the road shirtless like a madman all night.
Looks like he'll have a funny story to calm the waters with his wife.
You all right, miss?
A little better. He's dead, isn't he?
Yes. They put him in an ambulance. He won't bother you anymore.
I know. I just saw him. I don't even know why I asked.
Don't worry. You just went through a very traumatizing situation. This man was a monster. I don't know any colleague that even with a bulletproof vest can get shot 3 times and still get up. He was probably under the effect of some kind of narcotic. Sorry. It was a complicated night for all of us. The important thing is that you are safe. We will get you out of here, okay?
Yes. Thank you very much. After I got in the car, the cops started the engine to get us going. I looked back at the motel room from a distance and saw him again, looking at me from the window with his creepy smile while waving a hand at me. I rubbed my eyes in shock at what I was seeing, but when I looked again, he was gone. As the car began to move, I just closed my eyes and settled into the passenger seat.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video. If so, please leave a like. And also, a small percentage of people that watch
I failed to notice that earlier I was muted, so you did not hear what I said, so I apologize for that. But it's unmuted now. Let's continue.
My car in the middle of the night, on a stranded highway surrounded by deep woods. It was raining slowly. The car wipers were moving after every few seconds and wiping the windshield clean. Holding the steering wheel with one hand, I tried to navigate to my location with Google Maps, but the network issues made it impossible.
Where the frack am I?
I had been driving for the last 2 hours, trying to find a place for the night, but luck was not in my favor. I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat, yelling,
Damn it! I should have listened to Dad.
I stopped the car under a tree and came out holding my phone. I tried moving it around, just in case it caught a signal, but like I said, my luck was rotten that night.
Great! No signal! What more?
I wandered down the empty highway. I was feeling completely clueless when I heard leaves rustle behind me. Turning around,
Bitch,
I
get
said,
the fuck out of there. Get the fuck out of there
Who
now.
is that? Hello?
A shadow moved quickly and vanished behind a big tree. The chirping crickets mixed with the howling coyotes made me realize I was not in my own neighborhood. I was in the middle of nowhere, and if someone could help me in this situation, it would be only myself. I drove for another half an hour and found a motel on the side of the road.
That don't look
The
like
rain
a fucking
got
motel.
heavier as I parked the car inside. There was no one in the reception. The motel looked old and rusty, but beggars can't be choosers, so I decided to stay the night anyway. I came out of the car with my backpack when I heard a slapping sound. Following the sound, I saw a 2-story wooden house to the left of the motel. A big window on the first floor of the house could be seen with white curtains hanging on it. The light was still on, and I could see shadows of 2 people. A man and a woman were arguing. I could overhear their conversation.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you.
I know. I'm sorry for hurting you. I didn't mean to cheat on you.
You never hurt me. You are my husband. I know how much you love me.
I just couldn't believe this woman. I uttered to myself.
Yeah, right. He slaps you and cheats on you because he loves you. Dumb woman.
Just then, the woman behind the curtain turned to the window. Feeling awkward and a bit startled, I quickly went inside the office. I was pretty sure that the woman saw me eavesdropping. After waiting there for 5 minutes, I could hear slow footsteps coming toward the motel reception. A woman walked into the office. Her face seemed pale, like she hadn't slept well in a while. She got behind the counter and gave me an eerie smile.
Sorry. Dry month. We rarely have guests at this time.
No problem. I would like a room.
Yes, of course. Single bed?
Yeah, that'll do. She handed me the key of room number 3 and said,
Here's your key. It's $35 a night.
I gave her 4 $10 bills, saying,
Keep the change, thanks.
I was too tired to stop for a chat, so I headed straight to my room. I turned back to the house one last time, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up. The shadow of the husband could be seen through that curtain, and this time he was facing the window. So the man was watching me now.
What a bunch of weirdos.
Spooked out by all this, I walked faster and got inside the room, closing the door behind me. The room looked old. The room's furniture included a table, 2 chairs, a lamp on the bedside, a jug of water on a stand, and a small wooden cupboard hanging on the wall. Dirty, dusty wallpapers were resting on the damp walls.
Ugh, dry month it is.
I changed into my pajamas and went to wash my face before going to bed. The washroom had a big mirror with water stains on it. The leaky faucet in the sink was creating a spooky tapping sound.
Hold up, what was that?
Bed. The washroom had a big mirror.
Did you see that? Freaking door opened by itself and you're not paying a fucking attention?
With water.
And the freaking lights turned off.
Stains on it. The leaky faucet in the sink was creating a spooky tapping sound. As I turned back to the room, my stomach dropped. The room light was turned off. Looking at this invincible darkness outside the washroom, I realized someone came into my room. Drops of sweat appeared on my forehead.
Oh, now
I
you know.
slowly grabbed the metal toothbrush stand and said in a fumbling voice,
Who is it? How the hell did you get in? This isn't funny, okay?
You can see me, but I can see you.
Oh my god!
I ran to close the bathroom door, and heavy footsteps rushed at me. Before I could close the door, the woman behind the counter surfaced from that darkness, holding a sharp knife.
What are you doing here?
She smiled like a creep, and her left eye twitched.
You think you can take my husband from me? He's mine, okay? Are you out of your mind, you psycho?
Before I could get a hold of the situation, the woman charged me with the knife and ended up slashing my arm. I screamed in pain as blood came out from the deeply cut wound.
Ah! I'll keep cutting you like a pig until you die bleeding. Why are you doing this? Because he can't stop staring at your perfect bed-ready body. Look how he's watching you, standing there.
The woman pointed at the corner of the dark bedroom while saying this. It made me feel sick.
What the hell? Both of you, get out of this room right now before I call the cops.
You won't get to call anyone.
I promise, darling. No one is gonna come between you and me.
The woman lunged at me with her knife, but before she could stab me, I hit her on the face with the metal toothbrush holder. I am no weakling, so the strike made her pass out right away. I couldn't see her husband because of the darkness, but I still yelled.
I am calling the cops. You better stay right where you are, or I'll knock you out like your wife.
He didn't answer or make a sound. I grabbed the woman's knife from the floor and came out of the bathroom. With trembling hands, I switched on the room lights, and to my shock, I found myself standing alone in the room. The husband was nowhere to be seen. Thinking he had escaped, I locked the door and called 911. The woman was still unconscious when the cops arrived. They took her away in an ambulance, and one cop came to me.
Ma'am, how are you feeling now?
I think her husband is hiding somewhere in the room. She told me he was watching me. That's why she wanted to kill me.
That's not possible, ma'am.
Did you check the room?
We don't need to check the room. We found her husband.
Well, where is he? I don't see you handcuffing that peeping Tom.
We found him dead upstairs in that house.
What?
Yes, it seems like she murdered her husband a long time back. There's no way you could have seen or heard her husband. That guy has been dead for a month now.
Then who talked in that man's voice?
I have to get away from her. She is sleeping now. I just have to kill this man, and then I'm free. Free from my wife. Free for my life!
So it was her. She's suffering from dissociative identity disorder.
What do you mean I can't take care of him? I'm his father, Patricia.
My dad was yelling at my mother, and I listened quietly.
Really? So it was all you? Bullshit! That's it! I'm done with you. You can talk to my lawyer now.
He kept the phone on the heavy dial a little forcefully, and then kicked on the post nearby out of anger. Then he started to calm down his anger by breathing heavily while closing his eyes. After a few seconds, he came back to the car. He got into the driver's seat. I said,
"Are you and Bobby having a fight?"
My dad looked at me with a sad face and said,
"Would you like to live with me for a while?"
Okay.
"Thanks, kiddo. So, we will spend the night in a motel, and then I'll get us on the first flight to Berlin tomorrow."
Will Mom be coming?
Maybe not this time. We were driving down the dark, empty highway. I kept staring at the bushy trees passing us by. Suddenly, my dad took a left, and we saw a red light blinking at some distance on the side of the road. He drove towards the sign and stopped. It was a motel. We got out of the car and he said, "Let's stay the night here."
Always make sure it's looking.
"Tomorrow we will drive to Grandpa's. It will be good for us to spend the summer with him." I yawned and nodded my head, saying yes. We started walking to the motel reception. An old man with a round, chubby face was sitting behind the counter. His one eye was poorly stitched from some recent accident. He looked up and down and then looked at me.
"We don't have rooms."
"Hey, come on. I have a son. I can't stay in the car. Help me out here." Saying this, my dad took out a $50 bill and put it on the counter. The man took it and handed us a room key. On that key was written, "Room number 9. My dad asked the man, "Is there any food?"
"The vending machine is on the end of the corridor."
With his annoyed reply, my dad and I started walking to our room. We stopped outside room 9. Unlocking it, my dad said, "Luca, go lie down on the bed. I will be back with some snacks, okay?"
"Yes, Dad."
I went inside, took off my jacket, and looked at the room. The room had separate beds, and I knew my dad had a habit of going to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I didn't want my sleep to get disrupted, so I slept on the bed near the room door. I was half asleep when I heard the room door open. Thinking it's my dad, I said, "I'm not hungry now. I need to sleep." I waited for him to answer back, but when 5 minutes went by and he still didn't say a word, I opened my eyes and got spooked. There was a woman sitting near my foot and watching me. I felt as if I was going to die of a heart attack. The way she gazed into my eyes, I felt my body paralyzing with fear. Her pale skin, accompanied by blue veins peeking underneath them, made her look horrible. Her glassy blue eyes looked dead. But when I noticed her neck, I almost peed the bed. Her long, black braided hair was tied to her neck like a hanging rope. She grinned at me, and I opened my mouth to scream, but no voice came out. Mimicking my fear, she opened her mouth to scream too, but instead of a voice, her long, hanging tongue came out like a flapping dead bird. She started to choke herself with her own braid. Her eyes were bulging out. Her tongue was coming out. Her face started to turn blue. When my dad entered and switched on the room light. As soon as the lights hit the floor, I found myself alone in that room. The woman was nowhere to be seen. Seeing me all freaked out, sitting on the bed while breathing heavily, he asked,
"Luca, what is it?"
I couldn't speak for a while. Just kept staring at him with my fearful eyes. My dad came close to me and said in a worried voice,
Hey! Did you have a bad dream?"
She was sitting on the side of the bed and watching me.
"What? Who? Someone came into the room while I was gone?"
No, I opened my eyes and saw her.
My dad checked the room, then the bathroom, but she was gone, vanished in thin air.
"I think you had a bad dream, kiddo. How did she look?"
Very bad.
"What do you mean by very bad?"
Her face was all blue, and her eyes were rolled up inside of her head. Her long braid was tied around her head.
My dad's face changed to suspicion, and he slowly looked around the room. Then he looked back to me and said, "Let's get some sleep." We ate the vending machine snacks and went to bed. I don't remember the time, but I woke up hearing a spine-chilling scream. Suddenly, the lights started to flicker, and the cupboard doors began to open and shut like crazy. I screamed out to my dad, who was watching all this paranormal stuff happen right in front of his eyes.
What's happening, Dad?
Nothing, just a power outage. Relax, kiddo. The lights flickered a few more times, and then the bulb exploded. The room went into complete darkness. The moonlight from the window helped us to see. Suddenly, a female sobbing voice started to come from the corner of the room. A woman was crying in pain, horrible pain. Her cry was maddening and also scary at the same time. My dad said in a fumbled voice,
Who are you? Where are you, Emmy?
Suddenly, the room door slammed open and a gush of wind entered. Our eyes were stuck to the door, thinking the woman would come in from there. But instead, she came running from that dark corner. A scary-looking dead woman wearing a white dress. Her arms aimed for my neck. I screamed, and my dad grabbed me, and we both hugged each other, closing our eyes, waiting to die a horrible death. But suddenly, everything went silent. When we opened our eyes, the woman was gone. My dad didn't wait a single extra second. We packed our bags and came out.
You can come out now, Wanda. Free $50.
Oh, God, these people are so stupid.
Get ready for the third round in one night.
I'll check the special effects. You give them room 8 this time. It'll be easier for me to travel through the secret doors.
This way! This way, gentlemen!
Okay, what the fuck? Seriously? Alright, now let's watch more of this, guys. These guys, I mean.
I was scrolling through my phone, waiting for my shift to end, when the manager, Mr. Miller, walked in.
Don't forget to lock up after you. I will send William to your house to pick up the keys for his morning shift.
Okay.
Oh, and make sure the toilet leaks are checked.
I will, Mr. Miller. Thanks for the extra time.
Do your work then.
Mr. Miller left, and I grabbed the mop and bucket from the storeroom of the movie theater. I work here as part of the cleaning staff. This is a small, single-screen movie theater, but after the last show, its vast emptiness was enough to make anyone feel lost. The red seats looked dusty and old. I was about to start the cleaning when my mom called. Mom, I told you I have the night shift today. Why do you keep calling me? I'm worried for you, Beth. Why can't you take early morning shifts? What do you mean? You live 3 blocks away from this place. It's not safe to walk home all this way after midnight. Mom, the night shift pays a lot more, and I could use the money. I bought my bike today so I can get home faster. Now go to sleep and let me work. Good night. Why can't you just listen to me?
Because you're not my real mom, so stop irritating me.
I disconnected the phone right away. Though my stepmother loves me genuinely, I feel she sometimes goes overboard with her feelings. I played some music on my phone, put it over a seat, and began my work. The soundtrack echoed in the empty hall. One by one, I walked up to each seat, mopped the floor underneath, and picked up the trash into a black garbage bag. Music gives me relief from my boring job. Everything was going fine. I was sure that by the next hour I would be done and get home to my dog. But suddenly, I heard a glass window in the hallway shatter to pieces.
No more food.
My senses alerted, and looking at the exit door of the movie hall, I yelled,
"Who's there?"
No one answered. I paused the music and started walking to the exit door. I pushed the exit door, and it opened, revealing the long corridor. One of the spotlights over the corridor ceiling was flickering. The hallway looked mysterious, a mixture of light and dark surrounded all over.
Is anyone out there? Hello?
I decided to take a quick round of the place. I was scared, but still kept walking. My footsteps echoed. Suddenly, I stopped in front of a broken window. Shattered glass was all over the floor, and beside those pieces of glass lay a big rock that someone threw from outside. As soon as I noticed that, drops of sweat appeared on my forehead.
I fled a
The
lot
window
too.
was big enough for an average height person to get in without any trouble. That means I am not the only one here.
Oh my god, someone broke in.
I looked left and then right in panic. I reached to my pockets for my phone, but then I remembered leaving it on the movie seat. Without wasting a single second, I hurried to the movie hall. Over time, I was looking back at that long, spooky hallway behind me. The feeling of not being alone gave me chills to my bone. When I turned for the third time, my stomach dropped. A man was standing under the spotlight of the hallway. His head was face down to the floor. His black, messy hair covered part of his face. He stood still for some time and then started moving abnormally, like he was dancing to a very slow tune. A little step to the right and stop. Then a little step to the left and stop. I had never seen this man before. I didn't know what his intention was. But if he got in breaking that window, then he was not harmless. My lips trembled as I tried to speak to him. My breathing was getting heavy. I looked at the man and said,
Excuse me, do you need any help?
Hearing my voice, he stopped dancing and stood like before, face down and still, like a statue. Again, I spoke.
Hello? You can't be here after closed hours. You'd better leave, or I'll have to call the cops.
Hearing my threat, he looked up for the first time. The spotlight highlighted his creepy face. He had an evil grin, and half of his face was burned. Flashing his stained, dirty teeth, he said,
It'll be fun to have you tonight.
What? What did you say?
I said it will be fun to have you tonight. It will be so much fun to rip your clothes off and watch you die.
I started to run. Now the man started to chase me too. He was laughing while running like a maniac.
I'm gonna catch you.
Please!
I got inside the movie hall and rushed to the seat where I left my phone. Just when I grabbed my phone, the movie hall's exit door slammed open and that man entered. His smile looked even bigger now. He was panting like a hungry wolf hunting for its prey.
I told you, you can't hide from me!
Don't you dare come near me. I have a gun.
Really? Where? Inside your garbage bag?
I started dialing 911, and the man again started his psycho dance. Taking slow, dancing steps, he was coming toward me. I grasped the mop tightly because in my mind, I made a plan. My only option was to get out of that place alive. I crossed the rows and he followed. After a cat and mouse chase, there came a certain point where both of us stood at the same distance from the exit door. We looked at each other, and the man's smile turned into anger. He said in a spine-chilling tone,
Don't even think about it, 'cause I'll get you. And after that, your death will be even more painful.
I realized he had understood my plan. He knew I was going to make a run for the door, trapping him inside. I took a deep breath and then wiped the sweat off my face. The man stood still and looked at me one last time. I looked at him and said,
Either way, I could die, so why not die trying?
Saying this, I jumped and ran toward the door for my life. I was bleeding from my head, but I didn't care. As soon as I got out, I closed the door behind me and shoved the mop, locking it from the outside. The man started banging and kicking on the door, screaming,
You can't keep me here. Let me out, you bitch. I will cut you into pieces just like that broken glass. Let me out!
When the cops came, I was waiting outside. They went in and arrested the crazy guy. While they dragged him to the car, he yelled at them, saying,
"Keep your hands off me! Where is that bitch? Tell her I'll be..."
And just when he noticed me, his eyes got bigger. His left eye twitched 3 times, and I will never forget what he said to me.
"You can't hide from me. I'll come back for you. Maybe at some other address, like CF Block, 23 Avenue. See you soon. Get in the car, you freak."
A cop shoved him inside the car, and they drove away. One of the cops came to me and asked, how you feeling now?" A little heavy in my head. "Beth, I have some disturbing news about this man, but if you don't want to know it, then that's fine." "What? What disturbing news?" Did you have a cat?" "Yes." "How do you..." She showed me a small notebook. "It seems like he's the one who killed your cat. We found this notebook in his pocket. He's written some bizarre entries for the last week." "A week? He was after me for a week?" "Yes. Seems like he started stalking you from one night on the subway." As if the fact that I was being stalked by a psycho for almost a week wasn't enough, the lady cop clarified it to me in more detail. "He stalked you home, identified your house, and then sneaked in when you were out. He wrote about it in his notebook." She showed me the notebook, and in it was written,
Today I met Beth's cat when she was out for a gym class. I smelled her clothes. I wish to smell her one day too. The cat was being mean to me, so I had to poison it. I'm not even sorry. Beth is only mine. I love her. I want her. I need to kill her so that nothing else can destroy her.
I think I'm going to be sick." Saying this, I started to vomit right then and there. "Take her to the hospital. She needs medical care. Hurry up." I was in therapy for a month after that. I live with my sister now. At least, that's my plan for the next few months. The cops told me that the crazy guy is in jail, and that he has done this to many other women as well. I just hope he never gets out.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying. $1 million mark. Please consider subscribing. It's free and you can change your mind later. Enjoy.
God, I didn't cheat on her. I was too drunk to realize anything that night.
I think you should tell her, Jeremy.
Are you insane? Samara will be shattered. They're getting married next week. Now is not the time to overreact.
Overreact? He slept with another girl a week before his wedding. I don't care whether he was drunk or hypnotized.
Come on, Susie. It's only for a week. I'll tell her everything after we get married.
And how is that fair, Jeremy?
I had known Jeremy for a while now. I was so happy about him marrying my best friend until he messed it up. I waited under a light post at the sidewalk. Jeremy kept defending himself, how kissing is not cheating. It was 12 a.m. already, and Samara hadn't arrived yet. The streets were empty. The entire neighborhood was asleep. Suddenly, I heard a bicycle bell. Samara was coming in our direction with a big smile, riding her cycle. Jeremy and Kyle came and stood beside me. They behaved like nothing had happened a few seconds back. Samara stopped right in front of them.
Hey, look who's on time.
Shut up, Kyle. Feel glad you were invited.
Jeremy, I honestly don't know how you were going to put up with this crazy woman. Oh, stop it, you two. Come here, babe.
Jeremy hugged her. Stop loving me so much. You'll make Susie jealous.
You wish.
Saying this, I gave Jeremy a cold stare and started to walk. I heard Samara saying,
Whoa, someone's in a bad mood. What's up with you two? Did you have a fight?
She is not important. Anyways, what do you have in mind? Why this late night meeting?
Listen, everyone.
as you all know, my family is quite rich, and my dad just bought 75% of this town. So I now have full access to all of our property. That is, the town.
Crazy rich people.
Shut up, Kyle. So, as I was saying, we can go anywhere we want. I was thinking we could check out the Blue Jasmine. What do you think?
Oh, God! Why do you want to step into an abandoned movie theater in the middle of the night?
Why? Are you scared of ghosts, little Kyle? Kyle got angry and turned his face away. Come on, guys, it'll be fun. Also, I have something cool for us to try. Saying this, she picked up a bag from her bicycle basket and pulled out a bottle of whiskey. That seems expensive. Yeah, it's Dad's.
Oh no, he's gonna be furious.
Stop being such a wuss. Samara put the bottle into the basket and started walking. We all followed her. Pale moonlight and dimly lit streetlight made the town look spooky. The four of us were walking silently. Our footsteps echoed in the night. Leaving the outskirts, Samara took a narrow path amidst the woods. Owls were hooting. Coyotes were howling. Frogs and crickets were having their big jam. Jeremy turned on his flashlight, and then we saw Blue Jasmine, the creepy, abandoned movie theater. Torn up movie posters were still on the walls of the building. The big white signboard was broken and hanging dangerously from the top wall. Samara opened the door with a key, and we went inside. The dark, dusty hallway stood in front of us. A broken, cubicle-shaped counter could be seen in the corner. Dirt and cobwebs wrapped it completely. Samara walked to a big switchboard on her right and pressed on it. The two spotlights in the hallway turned on. Dad's planning to reopen this place, so the workers are rebuilding it.
Wow, this looks like the 70s.
I heard this place caught fire. It didn't catch fire. Someone burned this place to the ground.
What? Why?
To kill all those people who came to watch the show that time.
That's some nut job. How do you know this story?
My grandma used to tell me about this place when I was little. She said she met her first boyfriend here. How romantic! Saying this, Samara kissed Jeremy. We started walking down the hallway. At the end stood a big door. Kyle pushed the door, and a bundle of bats flew over our heads.
Bloody!
What a chicken!
Enough, Samara. Hey, let's go in.
Jeremy and Samara went in. Kyle wiped the sweat off of his forehead and looked at me.
Are you coming?
Yes. The movie hall was worse than a dumpster. Broken seats and filthy garbage were lying around. The big white screen had turned gray with dust. The curtains were torn. Everything was in the worst condition. Samara took out that bottle of whiskey and opened it. Let's get this party started, woo! Jeremy and Samara started dancing. I'm not a big fan of drinking, so when I took the first sip, I ended up coughing. Samara ran to me.
Hey, are you all right?
Water. I need some water. I'll get some. Samara left for the washroom, and Kyle started patting my back. Jeremy, who was completely drunk at that moment, threw himself onto a damp, dusty movie seat, losing control. Dust flew in the air. His clothes got dirty, but he smiled, closing his eyes. Time went by, but Samara didn't return. I started feeling better. Kyle said,
What's taking her so long? I'll go check.
Jeremy slowly got up and with stumbled footsteps walked out of the room. He was probably gone for 2 or 3 minutes when suddenly we heard him scream. Stepping into the hallway, we found Jeremy staring at the ground with a horrified face. Samara's bloody t-shirt was lying on the floor.
What the hell? Isn't that what Samara was wearing?
Samara?
Samara, where are you?
We called out to her, but she didn't answer. Jeremy said,
Susie, you wait here. We'll go check the bathroom. Just keep an eye on the exit.
Do you think there's someone else except the four of us? Did he do that to Samara?
I don't know, but I promise I won't let anything happen to her. I swear.
Saying this, Kyle and Jeremy took one step when we heard someone's phone ringing. It was coming from that room.
That's my phone. It must be Mom. Kyle, come with me.
They both turned back. I watched them go in. While I stood there alone, I felt someone was watching me, but I couldn't see anyone. I was feeling annoyed at having agreed to come here. I called out to her a few more times, but she was nowhere to be found. Thinking we should call for help, I decided to tell Jeremy and Kyle. As soon as I entered the movie hall, a horrible scene unfolded in front of my eyes. Kyle was lying on the ground. Blood was pouring out of his chest due to a deep stab wound, and he was already dead. Jeremy was standing right beside him with a shocked face and a bloody knife.
Oh my God, Kyle! It's you? Oh my God!
No. No! Susie, listen to me!
Help! Help! Somebody help me!
I began to run. Jeremy chased me with the knife. He screamed.
Susie, stop! Listen to me!
Please don't kill me! Someone help me!
I didn't stop. I ran and ran. I was almost close to the exit door when I heard Jeremy scream one last time.
Ah!
I looked back and saw Jeremy standing still with a painful face. Blood was flowing out of his chest, turning his shirt red. He looked at me one last time and said in his dying voice,
Not me! Not me! Susie! Not...
And his body collapsed on the floor, revealing Samara standing behind him. She was wearing a different t-shirt, and there were no wounds on her entire body. A sick smile lurked on her face while she gazed at dead Jeremy on the ground. She looked up, and I saw her face change. A sadness appeared, and she said,
You can call the cops now, Susie. I know you wanted to tell me the truth. Go on. Dial 911.
Why? Why this, Samara? You could have just called off the wedding.
Called off the wedding? It was my wedding. I'm not gonna cry over this vermin and call it off. Even Kyle was on his side, you know. He would have done the same to you sooner or later. So I killed him too.
You're sick, Samara.
We're all sick in some way or another. It's the reaction to our sickness that makes us different from one another. I'm gonna sit down. All this blood is making me nauseous.
Samara sat on the floor near Jeremy's dead body and started talking to him like a mentally deranged person.
I loved you so much, Jeremy. Why did you have to do this to me? We were only a week away from our perfect life. You hurt me so bad. That's why I had to hurt you too.
With trembling hands, I called 911.
Hello? Please, send the cops here to the movie theater.
Ma'am, which movie theater?
The abandoned one, at the outskirts. Blue Jasmine. Please hurry. 2 of my friends are dead and 1 needs medical help.
Don't worry, ma'am. Stay calm. Help is on the way.
Till the cops arrived, Samara sang for dead Jeremy. I had never felt fear until that night, watching my completely sane, normal friend turning into a deranged psycho wasn't easy at all. She was moving back and forth, sitting like a little girl, singing rhymes. Her voice fumbled, but the song she chose was pretty evident.
But I can't help falling in love with
darling, so it goes. Some things are meant to be.
That has to be like a young
I was
Billy
always a big fan
story.
of movie theaters. For as long as I can remember, I always asked my parents to take me as a reward for getting good grades in school or on my birthday. When I grew up, I started going alone or with friends until I met Roy, another movie fanatic. We not only started dating, but we went to see any movie you can imagine. We watched all kinds of movies. We didn't care about the genre. What I never imagined was the night we were celebrating 6 months together, we went to see a superhero movie and ended up watching the worst horror movie of our lives.
Remind me one more time what we're doing in this crappy movie theater.
Hey, we have to support the small cinemas, otherwise they're gonna disappear.
So it's because you didn't want to spend a lot of money, right? This wouldn't have happened if you hadn't insisted that I don't pay anything. You still have time to change your mind, you know.
Look, Tina, it's not about the money. I'm just more comfortable going to a less crowded place. I don't like the big theaters. They're so full of people.
Okay, you may be right about that. I rolled my eyes as I said that, but he was right.
Besides, only here you can see the old movies. Where else would we find a movie from last year?
Okay, I told you you had already convinced me. You can rest your case now, Your Honor.
You'll see. You won't regret it. Hello, do you accept credit cards?
The movie went normally. It wasn't the best movie we had ever seen, but it was okay. Who didn't think so was Roy, who left the theater a little angry. What did you think?
To tell you the truth, I didn't like it. The story was really bad. It had so many plot holes.
Plot holes? Come on, Rotten Tomatoes. If you want to watch an unnecessarily complicated movie, you should watch David Lynch. This was a freaking superhero movie.
I know, but that doesn't excuse it from not making sense.
While he was talking to me, he seemed distracted, so I started to get angry.
I'll settle for some good special effects and muscular men fighting. Hey, are you paying attention? You're not even looking at me.
What? Oh, yeah, sorry. Hey, look behind you.
When I turned around, I found a huge sign at the entrance to the room that said Back to the Future.
What? What's this old movie doing here?
We have to go in.
Oh no, we are not doing that.
Oh, please, it's my favorite movie of all time. I never imagined I'd be able to see it in the theater.
He started begging me out loud, and to be honest, I was a little embarrassed. I don't know. I've never liked sneaking in. It makes me kind of nervous.
Oh, please. No one has asked us for a ticket for the last movie. Also, look, the place doesn't have any guards.
Okay, let's go.
Yes,
he said in a low voice, celebrating.
Okay, let's take advantage now that there's no one around.
We both entered the room. Roy was euphoric, but I remained uneasy, looking around to confirm that no one was watching us. Once we entered the room, I felt a little more comfortable. We went to the front, to our favorite seats. We saw a few people sitting behind us, but they were very few.
This is so exciting!
It is?
Oh, shut up. You'll love the movie. You can watch the sequels at my house. I still can't believe you've never seen it.
As Roy was talking to me, something caught my attention. In the front row, to the side, two eyes were looking at us from above a seat. The eyes were huge and full of veins. What little skin could be seen was white and pale, and above it, a woman's long black hair. Hey, do we still have time to leave?
What the why?
Look, off to the side. There's a strange woman looking at me. I pointed out to Roy where the girl was, while I also turned my head in her direction.
Where? I don't see anything.
What?
She was just there, I swear it.
Roy relaxed in the seat, laughing, but then his body tensed up and his look became serious.
It's not that girl, is it?
On the opposite side from where I had pointed, the same girl was watching us.
How the hell did she get over there so fast? I swear it took me 2 damn seconds to lose sight of her.
Wow, she's really got her eyes on us.
What are you waiting for? Do something.
What the hell do you want me to do? Kick her ass? No, just ignore her. Don't let her ruin the movie for you.
You think I'm gonna watch a movie while this fucking creepypasta psychopath is watching me?
Yes?
Fuck, where is she now?
The girl disappeared from her seat again, and I looked for her desperately with my eyes.
Okay, I admit it. I'm starting to get uncomfortable myself. We'd better go.
Thank you. As I lowered my head to look for my bag, the woman's face was peeking out from under the seat in front of mine. I screamed and jumped back, terrified. I tried to stand up and leave, but the woman grabbed my foot with her long, wrinkled fingers and bit my ankle.
Ah, Roy! Roy, help me!
Terrified, Roy kicked the woman, but she didn't react and just kept eating my foot.
Help! Somebody help us!
The entire audience was watching us, but no one moved from their seats or cared about what was happening. Roy jumped into the front seat to grab the woman, but to his surprise, there was no one there.
What? Oh, this doesn't make any sense.
Get away! Leave me alone!
I screamed in pain and cried as I kicked the woman's head with my other foot. Suddenly, the woman released my foot and backed away, disappearing into the seat. Roy helped me run, and we both tried to escape together. All the people seated stood up and stared at us with wide eyes. We ran in terror, shouting, "Help! Help!" And as we did that, we saw the woman behind us. Her body now was visible. Her skin was pale, and she was in a white dress. Her hair covered most of her face, and we couldn't see her mouth. The woman ran on all fours at high speed, as if she were some kind of animal.
Quick, Roy! She's catching up with us!
We got to the door, and when we opened it, we escaped, and Roy slammed it in the woman's face. We took a few steps, crying, and an employee ran to help us.
Call 911! I'm hurt!
Madam, that looks really deep. What happened to you?
A woman from the back room attacked us. She almost killed us. You have to call the police now.
You mean that room behind you?
When we turned, not only did the room not have a Back to the Future sign, but it was sealed with cement.
How is that possible? We were just there. Listen, you didn't have to be there or have seen that. Don't look for answers because there aren't any. Just make up a good excuse for the ambulance because they will think you are drugged.
What did we see?
This theater has a dark past, and in that room, a girl was killed in the middle of a Back to the Future screening. They closed it for a while, but when they were cleaning it to reopen it, the employers started to see strange things, and after some accidents, they had to close it again. Honestly, I didn't work here yet.
How is this place still open?
We can't close this place. Many of us depend on it to bring food to our homes.
You let this happen? Just because of that?
If we leave and this theater is abandoned, people will come in anyway. Now, mind your own business and don't ask any questions, understand? I'm saying this for you. Now let's go ahead and get away from here.
The three of us walked to the lobby, helped by the other two men. I turned my neck to take one last look at the movie theater, and as I did so, I saw the door once again open, and from the darkness, the woman peeking out, spying on us.
That's super freaky. Holy crap. Super duper freaky, guys. Well, anyway, that's gonna do it for the stream. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, give it a excuse me, thumbs up, and I'll try to play more horror games soon, okay? Alright, with that being said, bye, stay creative, thanks for being here.
You're watching CBS, the loudest channel on TV.